It took longer than anticipated, but next year's Formula 1 grid is finally complete and all the driver lineups are in place after Williams confirmed that Logan Sargeant would be remaining with the team for a second season next year, which means that with the 2023 season now done and dusted, we can finally start to look forward to 2024, which for me will signal a new dawn for Formula 1 as we head into uncharted territory. Now you're probably wondering what I mean by uncharted territory. Well, now that we know that Sargeant is staying on at Williams for another year, which I think is the right decision, I think he did just about enough in the second half of the year to earn a second year at Williams, is that all the driver lineups that the teams ran at the end of 2023 will carry on into next year, which is a first in Formula 1 history. It does feel like nowadays driver changes are becoming less and less common during the season. If you recall back to 2018, all of the drivers that started the first race in Australia completed every single Grand Prix through to the season finale in Abu Dhabi, which at the time was a first in F1 history. And this also means that there'll be no rookies on the grid in 2024, which is a complete rarity in Formula 1 because of all the seasons I've been watching the sport, I cannot recall a season where there hasn't been a team that has run a rookie driver at some point during the season, whether it be from the very beginning or they bring them in during the middle of the season, for example. This is a completely new situation that we've never seen in modern Formula 1, and I think it brings me on to my next point. I think it just highlights just how difficult it is for young and up-and-coming drivers to try and break through into Formula 1 and try and find a seat. Just to give you an idea of how difficult it is for young drivers to get onto the F1 grid, next year will mark the third consecutive year that the reigning F2 champion hasn't been able to find an F1 seat. You go back to 2021, Oscar Piastri, when he won the F2 championship, wasn't able to find a seat on the grid for the following year in 2022. He spent the year as Alpine's reserve driver. The same went for Felipe Drugovich when he won the F2 championship in 2022. He wasn't able to find a seat for 2023 on the F1 grid, so he spent the year as a reserve driver for Aston Martin. And the same will go for the new champion, Théo Pourchaire, who wrapped up the F2 championship at the season finale in Abu Dhabi. But his reward for winning the championship is to spend next year on the sidelines as Sauber's new reserve driver. I think that it is important to say that this isn't a new problem for Formula 2 because we have seen this in the past where the driver that wins the championship in Formula 2 doesn't immediately graduate to Formula 1 and ends up spending a year either on the sidelines as a reserve driver or racing in another series. And we know that Pourchaire has tested in Super Formula recently and looks likely to be spending a year over in Japan racing in that series. Which for me, and I think this is the general consensus among fans, is that the driver who wins the F2 championship should automatically get a seat in Formula 1 for the following year. Because any driver that wins the F2 title is clearly a talent for the future, because it is a difficult series to race in. With your reverse grids, for example, the cars have no power steering, you have to get used to Pirelli rubber for the first time. So if that doesn't warrant an F1 seat, I don't really know what does. It's actually beginning to feel like these younger drivers should actually take a different career path than the usual direct route of going from F3 to F2 and then to F1, because it's likely that their chances will increase to find an F1 seat if they race in another series such as Super Formula, Formula E or even WEC. And this brings me on to my next point, which is if this doesn't show that Formula 1 needs more teams on the current grid, then I don't really know what will, because more teams equals more competition, which is great for the spectacle for us fans that are watching, but it also means that it will create more opportunities and more space for up-and-coming drivers to make their way into Formula 1. We know the story revolving around Andretti and their bid to enter Formula 1 in the near future. We know that their entry submission was approved by the FAA earlier this year, and now all they need to do is gain the approval of Formula 1 to earn a place on the grid in either 2025 or 2026. It's difficult to see how Andretti's entry bid could not now be accepted by F1 because they have done absolutely everything that's been required of them to show why they would bring value to the sport. I mean, we know because of Andretti's racing pedigree, they would bring a lot to the sport from a racing perspective, but also from a commercial standpoint as well, because of course they have the advantage of being an American team based in the US. So that will obviously go down very well with F1's owners, Liberty Media, who obviously are American, and they are extremely keen to continue growing Formula 1 in America. We obviously know that we've got 3 US races and that Formula 1 has obviously boomed in the US in recent years. I think that it's also important to remember that Andretti will not be coming to Formula 1 alone, because of course they will be teaming up with both General Motors and Cadillac, which of course ticks one of F1's essential musts of having a manufacturer backing. But on top of that, we also know that now Andretti, Cadillac and General Motors have announced their intention to become an engine manufacturer as early as 2028, which of course ticks another crucial box. So really, F1 would be doing itself a huge favour if it does actually end up accepting Andretti's entry bid, because if Andretti does become the 11th team on the grid, That will mean it would go a long way to solving the problem of having these junior protege drivers always being overlooked for a seat, or being left to wait for an opportunity to eventually arrive, or take a completely different career path and just having to let go of their Formula 1 dream. So a bit of a different topic for today's video, but something I just wanted to speak about and give my opinion on. But now I want to hear what your opinions are. Be sure to let me know in the comment section your thoughts on whether that be the Andretti situation, the difficulties that young drivers face trying to graduate to Formula 1, or even give me your opinion on Logan Sargeant. Do you think that he deserved to stay on at Williams for a second season? And if you're new around here, don't forget to like the video and to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.